Hello everybody, and today I'm going to talk about both the problems I've had with my ASUS laptop and why you shouldn't buy one. Now this right here is the ASUS N56JR laptop. Now this laptop cost around $1,000. I got a 3-year warranty on it, but there's a lot of design flaws and other issues I've noticed with this laptop that a simple warranty repair won't fix, because there's a lot more problems to this laptop than when I first thought about buying this and when I first bought this. Now, this laptop on paper looked like a good deal. It had a 750 gig, 7200 RPM hard drive. It had Windows 8.1, well, Windows 8, I actually had to upgrade it to 8.1, but then I downgraded it to 7 for reasons I'll explain in the video. And it also came with a Wi-Fi card, a DVD burn, you know, the usual stuff. But it also came with a 1080p screen, an i7 4700, and it also came with a 760M and 16 gigs of RAM. So this was a nicely spec'd laptop for the price. But over time, I've noticed a few inadequacies pop up when I've used this laptop, along with a bunch of design flaws and a major one which I'll get into when I show you what is wrong with this laptop. Now let me first take a look at the bottom of the laptop, because that's where a lot of the problems first pop up. Now, problem number one with the laptop has been the hard drive. Now the hard drive is very, very tiny. I mean, it's only 750 gigs. Now that might sound like a lot if you've used like only a MacBook, which has like a tiny SSD only. But the problem with this is, if you install a lot of games, because this was designed as a gaming laptop if you've seen the specs, if you install a lot of games, the hard drive will fill up quickly. Now I'm planning on upgrading this to a 2 terabyte hard drive, but the problem is, this was marketed as a gaming laptop, and I found out that the storage that comes with it is inadequate. The laptop also only has a wireless N chipset that does not support 5 GHz. So in here you have to take this part off and get to the Wi-Fi chipset, and you got to remove that and put in a wireless AC card. And that's what I'm going to have to do, because this does not support wireless AC or 5 GHz whatsoever. Now, I only got this a year ago, and thankfully it's upgradable, but the point is, for a laptop like of this premium tier, it should have come with it. But of course, what can I complain, since a lot of higher end phones still only have wireless N. But there's a much bigger problem than these two, and I'll show it to you right now. Now this battery seems to have clearly been designed for smaller, lower end laptops, as it is very small. And this laptop only lasts about an hour and 30 minutes, maybe 2 hours if you're lucky, on a charge doing light stuff. So not gaming, I'm talking doing stuff like using Notepad++. That is apparently too much for this wimpy laptop battery that could not handle the whole experience that this laptop provides. So I'm going to put the battery back in here. That's a major flaw right there. And that is one of the things that makes this laptop unusable for college work, like what I intended to buy this laptop for, because, you know, I was going into programming and stuff, and I wanted a lot of power for compiling stuff, for example. And the problem is, this laptop lacks a lot of that power. Because as you can clearly see here, this battery does not hold enough charge to be able to do anything worthwhile. And this is one of the biggest flaws I've had with this laptop, in my opinion. And to make matters worse, ASUS or third parties do not offer a bigger extended life battery for this laptop. The cooling system is pretty inadequate too. If you play games, it will heat up, and next thing you know, it'll start throttling the CPU and GPU. I think I've had some frame rate decreases when I've played like Advanced Warfare. Next thing you know, after like 30 minutes to an hour, my frame rate will start dipping I mean, I couldn't play Advanced Warfare on here at least, while Battlefield 4 just didn't even want to run when I tried it a while ago. I mean, the GPU drivers, I can't update them because NVIDIA Optimus on this laptop is so buggy where I can't even update the drivers for this laptop. I'm stuck with the ones that came with it, and because of that, Battlefield 4 will not work with the NVIDIA graphics whatsoever. And the Ethernet port right here is stupid too, because to try to keep the laptop sleek look, what they did here, what ASUS did, was they made the Ethernet port concealed here. So you have to push it in to get the cable in. And it's annoying because the cable will constantly snag here. And sometimes I've even had to use a USB Ethernet adapter just to compensate for the fact that this is one of the worst Ethernet port designs I've seen in any laptop whatsoever. Speaking of the sound, I noticed some issues with the sound driver that came with this laptop, as the sound levels would be kind of off for a lot of the sounds. However, when I installed another OS such as Windows 7, the issues went away, making it a lot more listenable whenever I did anything. Using a USB headset also fixed these issues. However, I'd recommend replacing the audio driver that came with this laptop with just a generic one. I will give this laptop credit though. At least it has a VGA port, so you can hook your laptop up to, say, a CRT monitor and be able to play Call of Duty or whatever, in case you ever wanted to do that kind of stuff, if you're one of those people who has a CRT or projector or something else that has that kind of connector. Because many of these computers are dropping this port, so at least this computer has the port, so I'll give it a plus for that. Now let's open up the laptop. Now, the keyboard with the original Windows install had some issues with typing, like it would just drop letters randomly. And while I don't have the backlighting now that I installed 7, I don't know if I want to install the keyboard drivers that came with this laptop, considering how the keyboard was initially unusable, just dropping keys left and right, like they just wouldn't register. It was a piece of shit. Now, this touchpad also was kind of weird when I got the laptop. It would just shut itself off all the time. Thankfully, I fixed that issue by downgrading Windows to 7. But at the same time, you shouldn't have to do that to make a computer usable. I had to. And this computer actually came with Windows 8.1, as you saw from the sticker on the bottom. But thankfully, I was able to find 7 drivers for nearly everything in this machine. Now, the laptop, like I said, features this stuff. It also features backlighting. But the problem is the backlighting, like I said, doesn't work because I removed the keyboard driver, which is stupid because it should work regardless of what OS is installed on here. I mean, what if you wanted to install Gen 2 or Slackware or some other Linux on here? You'd lose the backlighting support because of that. And also, did I mention here about how with this whole hard drive, the hard drive light is on a lot, even if I'm doing absolutely nothing. And it takes a long time to do certain things too, like longer than it should for stuff such as booting Windows. It takes forever on here. I mean, I could boot Linux or even Windows on an Acer laptop, which is a netbook with an Atom CPU. I could do it faster on there than I can here. But yet, Smart shows up fine for the hard drive. And the light finally comes off after a few minutes of talking. Smart shows up fine for the hard drive, so I kind of wonder if there's some weird issue with the SATA controller or if it's just general ASUS flakiness. I honestly have no clue, and I probably won't know until I try replacing the hard drive. So let me show you another amazing design feature of this laptop. I'll log in and I'll show it to you. So another amazing design feature of this laptop, like I said. Now I said the hard drive's low, look at this. 41.6 gigs free. Now I could probably free up a little bit of space by deleting the recovery partition. The only reason I did it was in case I had to restore the computer to the original ASUS hardware configuration. So let me just show you something real cool about this machine. As you can see, there is no hibernate option for this, and I actually had to disable hibernation on this laptop. Now you might be wondering why I had to do that. Every time I try to hibernate the computer, it would just like blue screen or do something like that when trying to restore it. It would actually do that. Now I have no idea what it is. I honestly think it's a buggy UEFI implementation because this laptop does not use BIOS, it uses UEFI. In fact, I'm even going to restart the laptop right now. And what I'm going to do is, I'm actually... Oh, I even got an error message. Great job, ASUS. This is another thing I love about this laptop. It has little errors like this everywhere. It's a buggy piece of crap. I mean, I've had Pentium 4 machines which have been overused that are less buggy than this ASUS laptop is. Because that's one of the other reasons that I have not been able to use this laptop for doing big stuff like I can with, let's just say, even an old netbook running Linux or other computers I've had. Here's why I can't, because this laptop is so flaky. You know, I haven't had this kind of issue with any other computer I've used, no matter what OS. Windows, Linux, maybe Mac, but Macs are pretty shitty too now. Okay. Oh wait, yeah. Guess what? There's no key to get into the BIOS displayed on screen whatsoever. In fact, I think it just locked up. I better try hitting delete or F12. Okay, I didn't get into the BIOS now. Here's the thing, this laptop does not tell you what key to get into the BIOS. Let me show you again. Try F1, F2, I forget what key it is, because there's no key displayed to get into the BIOS whatsoever. I think it's either F1 or F2, I forget now. But this laptop makes it a pain to get into the BIOS, and then when you get into the BIOS, it lets you change it between UEFI or BIOS mode, but the boot override, you can't just hit a boot button like F12, you have to get into the BIOS and then go to boot override. I don't know why they made you do that, but here's the annoying thing. This laptop with the BIOS, the main problem with the BIOS of this laptop is the fact that it's buggy as crap. There's no setup key, there's nowhere to change it so you even see the setup key. It's a pain to even get in the BIOS, and half the time the BIOS key, like which is F1 or F2, doesn't even work. And I've owned lots of computers, and this laptop by far has got to have the buggiest BIOS or UEFI implementation of any non-Apple computer. I mean, Apple computers, they're pretty buggy, but I can see why. They're only intended to run macOS and maybe Windows, that's it. But this, it doesn't even do very well running Windows because it's a flaky piece of garbage. And honestly, this laptop, here's another part about it. This laptop has just given me so many issues. Like, I actually called ASUS up to tell them about the driver support. Like, when are you updating the drivers? When are you going to do this? And they really didn't even give me a clear response. They're like, oh, try this driver on our site, and it's old, it doesn't even work well with the new games. And they really couldn't help me about that when I told them that the drivers were flaky and had issues. It's like they don't even care about customer satisfaction with their computers. They just don't. So here's the thing. Don't buy ASUS. I cannot stress this enough. Do not buy an ASUS computer. Their hardware's flaky garbage. Like I showed you some of the problems with it. I showed you some design flaws. Please, do not buy an ASUS. And of course, you know, the worst part about this is, many of these flaws could have been prevented or fixed easily because a lot are driver related. But you cannot use any other driver with this thing because of how buggy this thing is. You just can't like use NVIDIA's own drivers because the NVIDIA card won't kick in because it's a piece of crap like that. And Intel, I tried using Intel's generic video driver, for example, and they're like, oh, use your vendor provided one. Well, great job, because this thing's a piece of crap thanks to that. I can't even play Battlefield 4 on here, for example, because I have to do a video card driver update, but it won't let me. That's all I have to say. don't buy ASUS laptops. Thanks for watching. Subscribe for more.